always send it to Nancy. Okay, there it goes.
All right.
It's on. Good work.
Well, do you guys usually get started by kind of going around and you seem to all know each other, so.
Nancy typically does an introduction for the group. So, I mean, we did a very informal one of what we do. So no, we don't introduce ourselves. Usually the speaker just gets started and then mutes.
All right, well then I'm just gonna.
And she introduces you.
Okay, I'll introduce myself. And we'll, obviously this is a small group, so we can keep it casual. And if you guys have questions, just kind of, ask as you go. So my name is Liz Windisch. I'm a certified financial planner and I have been for 16 years. And I currently have a practice that focuses on retirement planning for women. So I'm glad to see so many women on the call. Today we're going to talk about the retirement plans that are available to you as an independent business owner. And I've given this presentation many times before, and I find that people are usually most interested in finding out the plans where they can save the most amount of money. And I recognize that that may not be where we're at right now with the pandemic and the economy. So while this is a presentation on getting money into a retirement plan, I do have some information at the end on the changes that Congress has made this year to help you get money out of a retirement plan without penalty. So just good information to have. I hope you don't need it, but it's out there. So see if I can share my screen. And excellent, good, I can, okay. So, now, bear with me. Saving for retirement can seem scary and complicated, right? But what if I told you that retirement planning for you and your business could be as easy to understand as a dog in a backpack? Okay, so first things first, why is this even important? Why are we even talking about this? Because money equals freedom and choice. And I know a lot of creatives and artists, aren't focused on money, and that's not why you do what you do. But taking care of yourself is important. And saving for your future gives you the freedom and the power to make your own choices. And at the end of the day, isn't that why we all have our own business, so we can make our own choices? I know that's why I have my own business. Also, you don't have a corporate retirement plan. A lot of Americans don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about this because they just have money that comes out of their paycheck, and that's the end of that. But you don't have a corporate retirement plan. And it's also important to concentrate on because as business owners, there's always something else to spend your money on. You've got startup costs, or you're trying to funnel money back into your business to help it grow. Maybe cash flow is kind of up and down, and you're waiting until you have enough clients where you feel safe putting money into a retirement plan. But even 1 year or a few years of can have a huge impact. So I'm going to show you that. So let's say you skip 3 years of saving money in retirement savings, just kind of while you're getting your business up and running, or while you've got low cash flow years. If in those 3 years you had saved $5,000 a year and you'd earned 8%, reasonable, maybe high, but average over the last 40 years, and 30 years later, that $5,000 would be $140,000. That's just those 3 years of $5,000. That's not saving any money after that. So you can see the power of compounding. You may not feel that you have money to save, but I would say you don't have money not to save. And if you did continue to save $5,000 a year, for those, excuse me, at the end of those 30 years, that money would turn into $611,000. So I know that $5,000 can sometimes seem like a lot of money. If you don't have it, it's a lot of money. But $611,000 is quite a feat with the power of compounding. So first, oops, there we go. More first things first. Now, most of you or many of you may know this, but I find that it's helpful to even just talk about like what is a retirement plan before we go into the types of retirement plans and what are we even talking about, and how is it different than other regular accounts. And it simply is a type of an account with tax preferential treatment. So what that means is that the IRS is giving you a break on your taxes to encourage you to save money for retirement. So I like to think of it as your retirement account is like a bag. And you can put money in the bag, you do put money in the bag, and you can do whatever you want with that money. You can invest in stocks or bonds or mutual funds. You can even give the bag to someone else to manage, have them decide what to do with the money inside of the bag. You just can't take the money out of the bag until you reach retirement age. You can do whatever you want in that meantime, in that bag. So why is there a picture of a dog waiting for a train? Because the bag is the retirement account and you are the dog. I like to keep these things a little light. It's kind of a boring topic. I don't think it's boring, but a lot of people think it's boring. So I like to kind of be a little silly with it. So first things first, and I know I'm going really fast. So like I said, if you have, I don't think I can see the chat box, but kind of wave me down if you want me to stop. But the most basic type of retirement plan is available to anyone, business owner or not, and that's just IRA. Really simple and straightforward. Anyone can contribute as long as you have earned income. And you can contribute $6,000 a year or an extra $1,000 if you are over 50. You can contribute some years if you want, other years if you don't. You can change the amounts, and you have until you file your taxes the following year to make a contribution. Which is nice for people that own their own business, because sometimes you want to kind of wait and see how your year shook out. Yeah, so traditional IRAs are pre-taxed. What that means is that the money that you would have paid in taxes goes into the account. So if you, oh, there's Nancy, hello.
Hi, my internet keeps going in and out, so I might leave again. Kara, thank you for recording. I'm just going to mute myself and you continue. I appreciate that you started.
Yeah, no problem. Glad you're back.
Okay.
So all that money that you would have saved in retirement 10, or excuse me, all that money you would have paid in taxes is now in the account compounding. And as we saw in that example in the beginning, that can have a significant impact to have that extra money compounding over years and decades. You do have to pay taxes on that when you take it out. The Roth, on the other hand, is after-tax money. So you are starting with a smaller amount because you paid that money in taxes. So you're missing out on that compounding that piece. However, when you do take the money out at retirement, all of that growth is tax-free. So again, you can imagine how much money that is over time. It can make a really big difference to have all of that money be tax-free. So there's good and bad and pros and cons to both of them, but I just like to cover kind of what that means right at the beginning. Questions so far? No, okay. So solo 401ks and SEP IRAs are very similar. They do have some very important differences, but I'm gonna start with how they are the same. So you can contribute up to 25% of your net income up to $57,000. So that's the 57 is the 25%. So you can see that you can really stash a ton of money. Oh yeah, see, I didn't even go back. I totally skipped my whole dog metaphor. The IRA is like this fanny sack, right? Small, doesn't hold a lot, but it gets the job done. In case you're wondering why the dog's wearing a fanny sack. Anyway, it's a lot more money, and you can vary how much you contribute each year. So you can decide at the end of the year, or after the year ends, how much you have left over to contribute. So there's a lot of flexibility. I got muted.
We have a question from Trisha, asking if it's net or gross.
Net. So of your net income. Not gross income, after you take away your expenses, what you're reporting on your taxes as your net income, you can save 25% of that amount. Did that answer your question? Okay. So my favorite is the solo 401k. And as you can see by this dog wearing a large backpack, that's because you can save a lot of money. This is for people who are self-employed only. So you don't have employees, self-employed only. Unless you have a spouse as an employee, then they can also contribute. So as a couple, you can stash twice as much money if that's applicable. So the way 401k accounts work wherever you are, say you work for a giant corporation and they have a 401k, the IRS allows you to save $19,000 a year of your own money out of your paycheck. Your employer may also contribute on top of that. That's up to their discretion. So with the solo 401k, you get to save money as the employee, $19,000. You also can save money as the employer. So you can really stash just a ton of money. And again, I recognize that that may not be where we're at right now, but I find with my clients, this is really popular in those last few years before they actually retire. The kids are grown, you're done paying for school, you're at some of your peak earning years, and you can really just stash a ton of money away in anticipation of retiring in a few years. And if you're over 50, you can do an additional $6,500 just with like a regular 401k. So they are a little bit more work than just a regular IRA or a SEP IRA. It's kind of like a one-time setup, and there's a little bit of cost with it. But if you are planning on saving over, say, $10,000 in 1 year, it's worth the time and minimal cost to do that. You do have to open it by the year end. So you cannot decide in March to open a solo 401k for the prior year. Once it is open, you can make your contributions after the year ends. You just can't initially open it that first year. So if you're waiting till July 15th to do your taxes this year, it's too late to open a solo 401k for 2019, but you can for 2020. Another one of the really big benefits with the solo 401k is that it has that Roth option. So you can stash a bunch of money and then never have to pay taxes again on any of that money or that growth, depending if you wait until 59 and a half, the retirement age.
So if you're a corporation, but you're a one-person corporation, does the solo 401k apply?
Mm-hmm. And the amounts that you can save depend a little bit on whether you're an S Corp or a solopreneur, but yeah, you can. Mm-hmm. So the SEP IRA is similar, but this is if you have employees, not contractors, but employees. even just 1 or 2 really low pay, small amount employees, you are not able to do the solo 401k. And with the SEP IRA, it's employer sponsored, and so those employees, you have to contribute for them, and that money is theirs immediately. You're not able to set up any sort of like reward, vesting schedule for them. They can take that money and leave if they want. And you have to contribute, and they can contribute if they want, but they don't have to, but you have to. And you have to contribute in the same percentage that you contribute for yourself. So if you contribute 10% of your salary, you have to contribute 10% of their salary. So it doesn't have to be the same monetary amount, but the same percentage. And that's not an option. So you don't have to contribute each year, but if you do, you have to give your employees the same. But that is a nice incentive if you are looking to hire employees. Having a retirement plan, most companies don't, so that can kind of give you a leg up if you're looking for employees. No catch-up provision, no Roth option. So like I said, there's pros and cons with both, and that's where getting professional help can make a big difference, whether that's your CPA or a financial advisor, to make sure you're making the right decision and staying on the right side of the law, which I absolutely recommend. And this one's nice. You can open this for the first time when you open the account the prior year. So if you have not yet filed your taxes for 2019, you can still open a SEP IRA for last year and save all of that money. So you can see here, this dog has equal PAC on both sides because you have to save the same amount for both employees. I know, super clever. Yeah, so I threw a lot at you. They're very similar, but the most important differences between those two are that if you have employees, you have to do the SEP. If you waited until after the year end, you have to do a SEP. But all of those things aside, if you have really, for whatever reason, if you have a lot of money or you want a Roth option, the solo 401k is your best choice. So questions on that? I know I just threw a lot at you. Anyone? So another option is the simple IRA. I don't recommend these. I put that on there because I know a lot of people have heard of them, and it's often confused with a SEP IRA. So a simple IRA is if you have a lot of employees, like 10 or 20 employees. In that case, I would recommend doing just a regular 401k. It's just less complicated, and there's a lot more benefits to you as an employer. I don't even think that applies to anyone here, but I like to point that out because I've heard them used interchangeably, and they are absolutely not interchangeable. So just as important as opening a new plan is don't forget your old plans. I know people come to me all the time and they've got $6,000 in this IRA and a 401k for a company they used to work for. And having plans all over the place can be really detrimental. And you can set up the absolute perfect plan for you as a self-employed person. And if you've got all these other things out here doing something different, it can really sabotage what you're doing. And it's also really easy to lose them. Companies get purchased, banks merge. And if you have an old IRA with $900 in it and you've moved 3 times, I mean, it's really easy to lose track of that. And money's money. So pay attention, either have them combined where you can, or at least have them at the same institution, or make sure you're just keeping track of them. And you are selecting an allocation and a plan that goes across all of those. You don't want to be really conservative over here and then something you did 20 years ago is really aggressive over here and it's messing everything up.
How do you go about combining them?
So it depends where you where you want to work. So if you have a financial advisor, they can help you with that. If you're at, say, Fidelity, if you talk to them and say, hey, I have these old plans, they absolutely will help you walk through how to move those and which ones you can combine. So like you don't want to combine an old Roth IRA with a traditional IRA because you would wind up paying taxes twice. So wherever you want to hold those, they will they're happy to have your money, right? So they're going to do whatever they can to help you. Most places will take care of the paperwork for you. So like I said, say you're at Vanguard, they will talk to the old firm, send paperwork to them to do a direct transfer so that you don't have any tax implications on that. So it's usually not too complicated. It's more just like, it's kind of homework and it can be a pain in the neck. But once you do it, it's absolutely worth it. I know it just kind of falls to the bottom of the list for people to do, but
Can you also combine, like, let's say you had an IRA and you're no longer contributing it, can it be moved to a 401k?
Absolutely, as long as they have the same tax treatment. So if it's a traditional IRA and a traditional 401k, absolutely. All retirement accounts can be combined with each other as long as the tax treatment is the same. Other questions on that?
So that's pretty much the same thing as like rolling over a 401, like an old 401k. Like for instance, I used to be on staff somewhere, so that's rolling over my old 401k into a solo 401k, right? I think I actually started doing that with L Invest sometime last year, but I stopped.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I love L Invest. That's great. Same thing. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. So with the 401k, it's called a rollover. With IRAs, they're called a transfer. The point is that you want to have the advisor or financial institution with whom you're working take care of that for you, just to make sure that it's direct and you don't have any adverse tax implications. Excuse me, and like I said, we'll be happy to help you with that. Like I said, I have other information looking forward. I went through this really fast because we started late, so I was worried. So let's go back. What questions do you have on this? Do you guys have like thoughts on what kind of plans you have? Does anyone have employees? What are you kind of thinking?
I have a non-plan specific question because I didn't realize they were going to be all American. Anyway, doesn't matter, but but my question is more general. So it's, do you have a recommended amount, like percentage, that we should all be at least minimum saving each year?
I do, yeah. It kind of depends on when you get started. So if you're, just really on it and you're starting at age 22, I think 10% is a good number. For most people, that amount is going to be closer to 15% of your gross income. That will give you the best shot at being able to replace your income when you're retired. If you are nowhere near that, which is completely understandable, what I recommend is bumping that up by 1 or 2 percentage points each year. So say right now you can only do 6%, never go lower than 6% and see if you can do 7 or 8 next year. And the year after that, try and get up to 10. Once you get used to having that money diverted, you're used to living without it and it's easier to just kind of bump that up. Yeah. Yeah, you want to put yourself in a position where you can replace your income even if you're still working. So I know a lot of people don't plan on, retiring at 65. Maybe they want to slow down, or maybe you just want to take the clients you want to take and you don't want to have to do the crummy work. Sometimes life has other plans for you, and you get sick or a spouse gets sick, whatever, and you find you can't work past 62, or whatever the age is, you want to be as aggressive as possible. And then if you're like in a great place by the time you're close to retirement, great, you can stop saving or you can save less. But I like to see my clients just have options, because we never know what's going to happen. And you really hate to see people work their whole life and then something adverse happens right before retirement, and they just, they were really planning on sucking away a lot in those last 5 or 7 years, and those last 5 or 7 years don't happen. Right, good question.
So, no, she was saying that she's signing off. She's having, with the streaming and her kid at school, it was a problem. So what, is there an age when it's recommended that people sign off, start withdrawing money, or?
So you can start withdrawing at 59.5 without penalty. It really depends on how long you can make that money last. So I like to run an analysis instead of just saying, 62, you can start taking out 4%. It depends on how much money you're going to spend in retirement, and how long that money is going to need to last for you. So I definitely, as a rule, I don't like people taking Social Security or the Canadian equivalent before their full retirement age, which for a lot is somewhere between 66 and 67, because you're permanently reducing your benefit for the rest of your life. So sometimes people need to start taking money out of their retirement plans before that, while they're kind of waiting for their pensions or Social Security to kick in. Really, you want to wait as long as possible, because you don't know how long you're going to live, really. If you can tell me when you're going to die, I can tell you, Nancy, exactly when to start taking money out of your life.
Okay. So another question I had, I don't know what you shared in the beginning, because unfortunately I had that unfortunate issue with my internet. What about, I understand that, and this doesn't apply to me, I don't know if it applies to anyone on the call, where people are needing to dip into their 401ks due to the employment situation based on COVID.
You would think we set this up as Nancy as my ringer, because that is absolutely my next slide, which, there we go. Okay. I swear we didn't plan this. She's my plan. No, great question. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I didn't move past if we had previous questions. So yes, in the US, Congress has passed what's called the CARES Act, and that is to help people take money out of their retirement accounts, because some people, that's absolutely the only choice that they have. And while I certainly don't recommend that, I understand, you got to eat, and if that's the only place that there's money, you do that. So for 2020, and this may get expanded, but for 2020, the penalty that you usually have taking money out of a retirement account early is waived. Usually if you take money out before you're 59.5, you have to pay taxes on that if that's applicable, and you have a 10% penalty. If you can show that your business has been harmed by the coronavirus pandemic, drop in income, you had to be a caregiver for someone with COVID, what have you, they waive that 10% penalty. You don't have to have a mandatory 20% withholding. You are permitted to repay that money over the next 3 years. So maybe you have just a temporary downturn in your business, but by next year, you're able to kind of put that money back. If you do that, you won't, usually you don't have that type of option. If you take money out of your retirement account, that's it. They actually are allowing you to put it back in. And you can also spread the tax penalty out over 3 years. And if you have a 401k, whether that's a solo K or an old, like Trisha was saying, an old plan somewhere, you actually can take a loan from that. And they've greatly expanded your loan opportunities for you. They're pretty narrow in who qualified. They've expanded that. And the maximum amount you could take as a loan usually is $50,000, and now it's up to $100,000. So, did that answer your question, Nancy?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. So,
I don't need it, but I heard it on the news, so I thought it should be brought up. But
yeah, thank you. Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's kind of a last resort because, you know, it's hard to catch up and put that money back, and then you're missing out on that compounding that we talked about at the beginning. But clearly, you know, they're recognizing that sometimes that's the only option. So it's nice that there's some ways to do that without being penalized. So, yeah.
what's a qualified individual?
It depends on how the company has written the 401k plan. So some companies, to be a qualified individual, you have to be a current employee. Some, they make you wait a year before you're a qualified individual. It just depends on how they write the plan. But the Congress has said that like most everyone that has a 401k should be considered a qualified individual. So they've expanded who's able to take that money out, or excuse me, take a loan.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions on this? No. Okay.
Okay. So I know I went through a ton of information really fast because it is a lot of information, but I just wanted to give you kind of an understanding of what is available to you. I know it's hard to pick what's best for you. So if you ever have any questions, I'm happy to go through what your options are for you individually. Happy to do a 30-minute phone call just to kind of answer questions or figure out what works for you. I'm a super this isn't a sales pitch. I genuinely, truly am happy to just go through the information. I feel really passionate about women saving money for their retirement and taking care of themselves. So whatever I can do to help you, I'm happy to do so.
Do you have a one sheet that has the different descriptions of what they are that you can share with your contact information that I could send to everyone on the call?
I can, sure. Or do you want me to send you the slides? Would that be helpful?
Would that be helpful to everyone?
Yeah, but yeah, also like if you do have a one sheet, that would be great as well.
Absolutely, I can put together one sheet. Yeah, absolutely. Uh-oh, Nancy, you froze. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll just kind of cut and paste the highlights and put my contact information on there, and absolutely. Uh-oh. I knew how to get started without Nancy. I'm not sure I know how to finish without Nancy. So I don't know. Usually,
I think as long as no one else has any questions, then I think we're good to go.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for your time. It really has been great, and I really mean it. Please feel free to reach out any questions at all, and I'll get that to Nancy just as soon as I can, and we'll get it out to you.
Thank you,
Liz.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.